Hey everybody, it's Dwayne with Off Grit. Today I'm going to show you probably the simplest hydroponic setup you can do. It's going to be practically free, cost you a little bit of money but hardly any. And before I do that, if you have not checked out the paragraphic documentary they did on our homestead, I put the link down here in the description. Please do so. Please support those guys. They did a wonderful job, and they do a lot of different documentaries, so they're really fun to watch. But anyways, let's get to it. I like to recycle. I'm going to be using a coffee container. Now, in this coffee container, you'll have a lid on the top, of course. Now what we're going to have is we're going to have this net cup. You don't have to use a net cup. You could actually use a plastic cup, a recycled cup. You could just poke holes in a cup, a bunch of them, and then you can set that in there. So what will happen is this will sit right here. I'm going to bore a hole in the lid here. I'm using a hole saw because I have a hole saw kit, but you don't need to have one of those either. You could just use a razor, box cutter, and just cut the circle, trace it, cut around as best you can. I've done that plenty of times. And then what will happen is this net pot will sit in there like that, okay? So as this thing sits in here, depending on what kind of substrate you have, let's say I put the cocoa coir in here, and here's my plant. We're going to fill up this nutrient solution up to right about there, okay? These roots will start to develop, will start to go down into the water, nutrient solution. And as this happens, this water level will go down. As the water level goes down, the roots go down as well, and they start getting bigger. Okay? Now the water level's down here. Okay? Now we're going to put a little hole in the side of this too, just a little one. You can drill a hole on both sides of it, just about, in the middle of where the net cup's going to be. And that's going to allow air to get in there, and that air is good for the roots, creates nice aeration and stuff, so that's a good thing to do. So basically what's going to happen is as this nutrient solution goes down, the roots are just going to keep growing down, 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 and then pretty soon they're going to have this huge root system down there, and you're going to probably have to refill the nutrient solution depending on the type of plant you're going to use. Now I'm going with a coffee container, so I'm growing a spinach plant, that's it. But if you wanted to go with something bigger, say like a tomato plant, you're going to want a much bigger container for that. So that's how this works, and this is called KRATKY. Now I'm going to put a link in the video here to his YouTube channel. This has been around for a long time. This is probably the easiest, simplest, but effective hydroponic setup you can possibly do. And this is great because you can recycle, you can do all kinds of things. It's very passive, you don't have to use pumps. I will say a couple things about this that I noticed over the years when I did this a while back. When it gets hot outside, these containers can get hot, and then the solution in here gets hot, and they don't do real well. And that's in the desert, okay? So what I recommend is if you're going to do this type of thing outside in the desert or in the summertime, I would bury these in the ground. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to bury these containers in the ground, and that way we got this thing called thermal mass. And what will happen is that the ground temp will keep this cooler in here. Another thing you can do is you can add hydrogen peroxide to the water, and that can help you with oxygen and things like that. But we won't get into that right now. But basically, for the time of year we're at now, it's about 50 degrees in here. It's good temperature. Spinach is relatively a cool weather crop, so we should be good to go, right? So that's what I'm going to finish the project now, and I'm going to show you how that sets up. Let's talk about a couple different grow mediums and substrates. First, what we're going to look at here is what we call rock wool. Now, you can go to your local hydroponics store or online, and you can look up rock wool, and a lot of times they'll call these starter plugs, but I call it rock wool because that's what it is. So rock wool has a feel kind of like insulation, but basically you see these are little cubes, and you can usually put your seeds inside these things, wet them down, cover them up, let the seed germinate, and once the seed germinates, then you'll take this plug, you'll put it in a net pot, and that net pot will have either cocoa core or it'll have expanded clay pellets in it. And that's next we have cocoa core. Now, cocoa core is basically coconut husk. It's ground up really fine, and you can see here they have this stuff pressed into these little bricks. And well, I'll be using this today. Basically, it's a lot like dirt. It looks like dirt, but it's not actually dirt. It'll hold like, I think like 8 to 10 times its weight in water. I have here these 2-inch net pots. You can see these. Basically, I'll fill this stuff with this, and then we're going to do our hydroponic setup. Now, the next thing you can use are, these are expanded clay pellets, and they heat these up, and when they heat them up, there's a lot of little air pockets that form in these, and then these things can actually hold and retain water as well. So for today's hydroponic setup, I'm going to be using spinach, and you can see here I've already germinated my spinach seeds. It'll be a lot easier for me to put this in the cocoa core, and I can pack the cocoa core around the root and then put it in through the in the net cup into the solution. So that's why I'm not going to be using these. We'll put the seed in there and then the root will grow through it. So it's going to be a little hard to do that with these, so I'm not going to be using that. So next thing you're going to want to do is you're going to take your cocoa core and you're going to want to put water on it. Some of it will come in bags already pre-wet. It's more economical to buy it this way and these blocks, and then you can just wet it yourself, and I'll show you guys how that works. Let's talk about the hydroponic solution. This is what I like to use, and there's all kinds of brands of different hydroponic solutions. So if you're a newbie, and this 3-part solution works really well, I like it because simply on the side of each bottle, you will see here that they will tell you exactly how to mix this stuff. For a seedling, you want to go here, so it says cuttings and seedlings, right? So cuttings and seedlings, which is what we're doing, we're going to be 1/4 teaspoon per gallon for each one of these 3 solutions here. So keeps it simple, right? That's all I need to know. And I'm going to drill a hole in the top here. Just like that. So it's that simple. Then I'll take the lid off. I'll be able to fill this thing full of the solution that I just showed you there. Then I'm going to take my plant, I'm going to put it inside here with the cocoa core, set it in there, put on our lights, and just set it and forget it. And here we go. I got my net cup and I got my cocoa core. I'm going to take that and fill up that net cup here. So there you go. You got it in there, just like that. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put my nutrient solution in here. All right, folks. So just like that, it is done. That's simple. It's so easy. Now we're going to put this directly under the light here, and we're just going to give it time. And we'll check in on her every once in a while. Her, him, whatever. Tell you what, if you want to name this plant, just put a name in the comments and we'll see which name fits the best. I'll just pick one and we'll go from there. So go ahead and leave a name in the comments for this plant. This is a spinach plant, so name it accordingly.